Hello everybody, Todd from the future here. We have a new name for the channel. Congratulations. We're now going to call it No Show Drift. Me and Caitlin were just sitting in bed the other night brainstorming names for the channel. We came up with No Show Drift for, it's got kind of two meanings to it. One meaning, we're not very showy, we're not very flashy, you know, we don't like to flex around here, we just got normal stuff. And the other one is I don't actually go drifting. I'm a no-show. So yes, No Show Drift. Check it out. Hope you like the video. What's going on, guys? My name is Todd. Welcome to whatever this channel's called. I obviously still haven't decided of a new name. For now, Shibby Drift. Today we'll be working on the R34. I'll show you the tube front me and Lav did a couple of weeks ago, and I think Riley's coming over in a second and he's going to help me pull the front crossmember out so I can move the rack forward 20 mil for the lock mods that I've got. In a second I will talk about what stuff I have for the lock setup. Check it out. Alright, so this is the tube front me and Lav whipped up a couple weeks ago. It was a kind of like a kit that I bought off a dude in Queensland. He makes them for R chassis, S chassis, that sort of stuff. It's a full bolt-on, bolt-off kit. He just had to weld it all together and get all like the sizes right and lengths right and whatnot. So yeah, it unbolts here, here, and then as you can see here, there's two bolts under there. These side kind of bracings here are completely welded on. They do not bolt off. They're just to brace the tower against the chassis a little bit more after we cut the tub out. Alright, I'll quickly talk about the lock mods I'll be doing to this car. It'll be a simple setup at first. I've got the GK Tech rack spacers, their rack ends, and their turret ends. I will also be lengthening the lower control arms about 25, 30 mil or something like that to push the wheel out a bit further for the gained lock. I will also be cutting and shutting the knuckles. Now, today what we're doing is pulling the crossmember out and we're going to be moving the rack forward, probably about 20 mils. Now, the idea behind that is if you cut and shut knuckles, it moves the pickup point for the turret end forward on the car. When that happens and you don't move the rack, when you go on full lock, what can happen is what they call steering bind, where the turret end goes past center and it kind of locks into place. And if you go on to lock with your steering wheel, you have to actually physically pull it off lock, like it won't just turn off it. So if you don't move the rack forward, it can cause a lot of issues where you could crash the car or crash into somebody else or whatever. So moving the rack forward, you know, a little bit will help the steering not bind up as much. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Front crossmember out, moving the rack forward. Oh, Riley's here now. Hey, Riley. What up? Now, we're going to try and do a sneaky lazy thing where we're just going to undo the rack from the crossmember and then the lower arms from the crossmember and then just drop the crossmember out and leave everything. So I don't have to take everything apart. So whether it works or not, you'll find out in a second. All right, we did it. And we did how we said we wanted to. Look, the rack's still in there. We just had to undo the caster mount on one side. Then let it drop down, slide it across. Boom. Riley, shut up. Riley, shut up. You can kind of visualize this a little bit more. This is where the rack mounts to. We want to come forward, I think 25 mil. So that's our distance from here to here. It seems like all Nissan racks, like S chassis, R chassis, the information that I got about moving this forward was for a S chassis rack. They have these holes in them, and it's a really good indication to like go top of these holes, down 25 mil, cut this bit out, cut all around here, all the way back around, and then on the back, and then that all come off, and we can move it forward. Once I get it all cut out, I'll show moving it forward.
Straight into the cutting, so headstrong, so confident.
Stop. You just broke my fucking screwdriver. Move! Show the camera what you did. So, it's the next day. I ran out of batteries for my grinder. I only have 2 rotary batteries, so I don't get too much time with the grinder. But the grinder kind of wasn't get into these corner bits too well. As you can see here, I had to go over a little bit to actually cut through completely, and I didn't want to keep doing that. This one, that's kind of as far as I could go there. As you can see, they're still kind of connected here and here. So I went out and I bought a Recipro saw. Hopefully this will be able to get through them. Let's check it out. All right, Recipro worked mint. That worked really well. A little bit awkward, just because I had to hold on to this whilst using it. It's obviously heaps easier to use Recipro with actually two hands. But anyway, got through it. As you can see, it's all cut away. So, cut around your bracket, cut your hole, 25 mil. You cut down onto obviously the right-hand side of this weld here to detach all that. Same with this side. And I'll just flip it over so you can see the other side and see where you have to cut there. As you can see, we've cut all the way through into these, which these holes are actually for putting your socket into to undo the rack from the cross member. Same on this side, all the way through. And then I'll be going from the bottom of these holes together. I'll probably end up following the lines on these circles just to make it nice and straight. All right, so that's cut completely off. As you can see, the whole part where the rack mounts to. Just looking at it now, to come forward, these bits on the side here, see how it kind of pokes out? We're gonna have to cut that off flush pretty much to this weld. Same on this side. It's just a bit too wide to come past here. So I knew that there's obviously some trimming to do because of how bulky this is to get it to come forward. So I'm gonna do the minimal amount, see if I can do it, see what catches, minimal amount, and continue. All right, so it just seems that this bit at the bottom obviously is getting in the way. So I've just measured 25 mil from where we cut up, cutting that off because pretty much we've taken 25 mil out of here at the top. We haven't taken 25 mil out of the bottom yet. So I'll cut this off and then we'll see where we're at. All right, so I've gotten it to fit, as you can see. Fits in between there. I can make it fit up a bit better with both my hands, but I've got to hold the camera. I kind of took a little bit too much at the back there, just here. Took a little bit too much out. I didn't need to go as narrow there. The main part that needed narrowing was this side and this side at the top here to get it to come forwards. There we go. That's the back of it. As you can see, there's a bit of a gap here and here, just from where I trimmed away too much. My bad. I'm just going to get some plates and kind of weld them across to reinforce those parts. As you would expect, like taking such a big chunk out of this thing, it has twisted the subframe a little bit. It's hard to explain, but you can kind of see how it's rocking. It's just twisted a bit. So when I weld it back together, I will put pressure down on top of it to set it flat to the ground, and then do some welds just to hold it in that position, as well as not, getting too hot with the welder and stuff like that. Make sure we keep it straight. Yeah, I'm just going to do some cleaning up and that sort of stuff. I think we'll just be welding it next. All right, so ready to weld. All I've done is just measure like this distance here to here. Worked out to be 30 mil, so I just 30 mil across it, keeps it square. Yeah, I'm just going to do a couple tacks on this side, then flip it over. As I was talking before, the cross member has kind of warped a little bit from taking a bit of the structure out of it. So I will, when I flip it over, I'll hold it in position, throw a couple more tacks into it, and yeah, we'll be ready to fully weld it out then. Then after that, we'll grab some plates just to reinforce a few spots where I think it would need some reinforcement. Silly me, I must have bumped it between putting it together and welding or something because it's out a bit. So I'll just cut through this here. It just has to move back a little bit. Pretty good weld. One thing I realized I should have done before I welded these two pieces together was cut like along here, this little bit out here, off this side, just because that's where the hole is for the, like, to do up the rack. So it's going to be a little bit tricky, but if you're doing it yourself, cut this little corner off first on both sides. It's going to make your life a little bit easier with it being not welded together. Anyway, I'll be able to do it. I'll get there. Yeah, I'm pretty much done. I finished welding up the bottom along here. I then cut these holes a bit bigger. They're not the best, but whatever. Cut these holes bigger to get to the bolt. I might have to cut a little bit more out of the top here. I welded these plates on the bottom. There was that big gap along here, so I bridged from here to there. Same on this side. Little plate bridging between those two. All right, and there's the other side of the plate there. A couple little welds on the other side. Here and here. Cool. Look, I didn't do a full weld across all of it because all the welds on this are like spot welded like this, like the factory ones. So I thought I'd kind of copy that. I trimmed down this did cut to here. I trimmed that down to kind of be in line with this bit. Weld underneath, weld up there. Same for this side, weld there, weld there. Look, it seems like it's going to be pretty strong. I don't think I need to do any more or do any more bracing. Look, I'm a novice welder. I haven't done too much. Like, I've bought this decent welder now for home. I set it up to be what the thickness of this material would be. You know, I've gotten some tips from some mates who are a lot better than this than I am. I feel like this is probably going to be strong enough. But, you know, there's probably going to be heaps of people out there being like, Todd, you f***ed it. Todd, that's not right. Todd, you haven't done this properly. But, you know, whatever. I'm just going to send it. Literally, I'm going to put it in, see what happens. If it breaks, it breaks. I honestly can't see this breaking at all. If you're watching this video and you have seen anything that I have done wrong, by all means tell me. If I deem that it is worthy enough to fix, then I shall. Otherwise, bite down. Anyway, I'm just going to put the thing back in the car now, and we're all good. I will talk about the lock mods when we start installing the rest of it. I do need to send my knuckles off to get cut and shut, and I need to extend my lower control arms. Hello, Todd from the next day here. That's 3 days of filming now. As you can see, I've put the rack back in the car, but one thing I wanted to mention is I ended up full welding across here and underneath. I didn't do it because I saw the factory ones weren't fully welded, but I talked to a mate who's an experienced welder. Shout out to my boy Wobby. He told me, he's like, weld it in full, do it slowly, make sure the thing doesn't warp. And yeah, I ended up welding that out fully. As you can see, the rack still, you can't quite see in there. It's very close, but the rack still fits. It still fits in there perfectly. It all bolted up completely fine. I made the holes big enough for those bolts to come through into here. But yes, all in all, everything worked out great. I feel like I did a great job. Congratulations to me. Woo, Todd. It did end up getting warped slightly. It wasn't as true. It wasn't quite true. It was a little bit off, but literally it's got 4 bolts. You can see bolts on the top there, bolts on the top there. I just threw the nuts on, did it up, and it pulled itself straight. No big deal. The car is straight, we think. So that'll be straight now. Thank you everyone for tuning in. That's all done for today. Subscribe, hit the bells, hit the like button, do all that kind of stuff. This is the most like in-depth fabrication I've done ever, or the most invasive. I don't know if I suggest doing this as a noob. I don't know. I'm a noob. I did it. It seems to have worked out fine. Learn from my mistakes. Let's drift it first before I suggest anyone doing this themselves. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of proud of myself. I haven't done, like I said, I haven't done anything like this before. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Thank you for watching No Show Drift. Catch you later.